Hi everyone, and welcome to the fifth episode of Socium's Tech and Transformation Podcast. For those who haven't joined us so far, the previous shows have focused on speaking with CTOs and founders of technology businesses and hearing more about their journey, but also how they've altered and changed their management style during the pandemic. Today, though, we're going to shift that focus and actually shine a spotlight on what is without a doubt the most talked about topic within technology right now, and that's diversity. Socium have recently signed the Tech Talent Charter. This is a non-profit organisation that is committed to addressing inequality to the UK tech sector. And as part of this, we're going to be looking to engage with leaders across the industry and hear more about what they're doing to drive inclusion and diversity within their teams. And today, I'm joined by Jennifer Mullen, who is the International Director of Talent Acquisition at Intuit. Prior to that, a few stints at the likes of Yahoo and Expedia. I think there was also a stint, albeit a brief one, working on agency side also. So, Jen, thank you for joining. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Why don't we start by why don't you give us a bit of a background, an overview of your background, should I say, and I guess a bit of insight into what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah. So Jennifer Mullen. I'm actually Irish, even though I sound very much like Rabsy Nesbitt. But I did live in Glasgow for several years when I was growing up, and I went to university in Stirling. So hence the accent. And I think I started off like a lot of people in recruitment where, sorry everyone for the dog in the background. I know it's part of the course these days, but he's got a bit of a cough. Anyway, so I think like a lot of people in recruitment, I studied English and history, came out of university not really knowing what I wanted to do, and I got into financial services. And basically what I learned there was I was good at sales and I was good at people, talking to people and building relationships with people. And really enjoyed that, but didn't really love the banking side of things. So someone said to me and my family, "Oh, you're really good with people. You should try recruitment." I didn't really know what that meant back then, but like you say, Ross, that was how I got my introduction to recruitment agencies and started my career there. And Yahoo was actually one of my clients. So that's how I ended up working for Yahoo. I hired a couple of key roles for them, and then they asked me to come work for them. And Yahoo gave me the opportunity to move from Dublin, where I was at the time, to London. So that's also how I ended up living in London. So yeah, I've kind of worked my way up from being a recruiter, hands-on, bringing in all the talent, to the role I'm in now, where I lead a team of recruiters that are all over the world, helping our business to grow in countries outside the US. Because Intuit is a US company. We make a software called QuickBooks that will be probably the one you'll know most in the UK. But ultimately, we support small businesses. So we help small businesses stay on top of their cash flow and stay afloat, right? Which is important at these times more than ever.
And look, you work for some, big US firms there. But you mentioned Expedia, Yahoo, and obviously most recently Intuit. I've worked with some of those. I've spoken to a lot of people who worked at those businesses over the years. Traditionally, they're three businesses that have, I guess, done pretty well on the diversity front. Expedia, I know, for instance, I know from Intuit, from the work you're doing at the moment. What were those companies particularly good at? We're going to talk about Intuit in a moment, but it'd be good to hear about your experiences at Yahoo and Expedia a bit as well.
Yeah, I think when I worked at Yahoo, it was, I think if I'm 100% honest, we did a lot of talking about it and a lot of hoping by talking about it, we would make change and real difference. I think things have changed there around that now, but it was really at Expedia, I saw how you actually make it happen. And I think the focus, that we had at the time when I was at Expedia was on really focusing on hiring in female leaders, because there was a lot of, let's get people in early in their career and from university, that's a really good way to drive diversity. But until you start bringing in more diverse people into the leadership roles, you don't really make a big impact. So I think focusing on, especially in engineering, right, the staff level and the managerial levels, bringing in strong, diverse talent there, that was really important. And then at Intuit, obviously it's about a lot more than just women in tech, right? We're really driving to bring all different types of underrepresented minorities into the business. So I think from a female point of view, we're quite advanced, right? We've been bringing women into tech for many years. We've got key ways that we do it that I can talk you through. I think what we're doing now and what we're struggling with, and I know a lot of my peers in the tech industry are struggling too, is with GDPR and all these regulations we have, how can we start recording people's backgrounds, asking them to share with us what their backgrounds are so we can more accurately find out if we're making an impact and start setting some aspirational targets around those things. So it's almost like it's a given that you're bringing women into your teams. But what about all the other types of diversity and all the great people that we're probably not reaching right now because of our sourcing strategies and that we really need to be? So that's something we're focused on.
Brilliant. I'm just going to read off some stats to you, Jen, as well, which just support the points that you've just made. And this isn't just related to women, but there's a few there that are specific to women as well. So this is specifically related to the UK technology scene at the moment. So give some information as to why there's a few obstacles to overcome here. So 19% of tech workers in the UK are currently women. You touched upon this during your time at Expedia, but 5% of all leadership positions in the UK sector are held by women.
Yeah.
And only 4% of UK tech workforce is either Black, Asian, or minority ethnic. So there's clearly a lot of work to be done. The interesting thing that a stat I did see the other day was that a recent McKinsey report, though, found that companies with high levels of ethnic and cultural diversity were 33% more likely to outperform their competitors.
Yeah.
So, for both of us, having worked in the UK tech industry for a long time, while shocking, those numbers probably aren't too surprising. But given the obvious benefits that are highlighted in that McKinsey report, why haven't, more tech companies made this a priority up until now, do you think?
I think it's hard, right? I think, if you're working with a majority audience, right? So let's just say our engineering teams, right? The majority of these teams are male, right? So they probably haven't experienced maybe what it feels like to be underrepresented. So I think what we've done a lot of is really try and help all of our employees put themselves in the shoes of someone who might be an underrepresented minority, either coming for an interview or going through a promotion process or all the different people processes we go through. So I think it's hard for people to put themselves in the other person's shoes and really understand how it feels and how we as a company might be making people feel. I also think it's extremely hard, right, to source diverse talent. So I think there's a process that your recruitment teams have to go through on where do you find this talent. I mean, you know this, Ross, even how you write a job description can have women and underrepresented minorities immediately opt out of the process and not even apply. So there's a lot you have to do in your recruiting process to make it a friendly process for other people to go through. So there's a lot of change you have to go through if you're really going to be serious about this. And I also think it has to come from the highest level, right? If you are not going to be held accountable to driving diversity in your team, it's not going to work, right? Because you'll always default to, here are my business goals, here's what I have to achieve. And if you know your leader isn't going to hold you accountable to it, you're not going to do it, right? Because it's hard and because it requires a lot of change. So even with the best intent, it will never change. So I think that's what's helped Intuit is at the highest level, we're being held accountable as leaders to have diverse and inclusive teams. So I think it has to start there, right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Intuit are doing an amazing job. I think, you only have to go online to see the awards that you guys have won. And I know that's been a key driver for you guys for a hell of a long time now. As I mentioned, you have won numerous awards because, not just the approach to hiring female technologists, but also your approach to D&I in general. So what I'd love to hear, Jen, and a lot of people who can be listening to this will love to hear is what are you guys doing? What are you and your leadership team doing at the moment to really improve that imbalance in your technology teams?
The first thing you have to do, right, is education. So we've invested a lot of money and time in teaching. We started with the recruitment team, but now all employees about unconscious bias, right? We've been talking about it for years. We've partnered with a company, the name is escaping me now, but I can get that for you, where they've really got to understand our business and how we work. And then they're really helping to tailor the training around, Intuit and what we're trying to achieve. But it's really, so unconscious bias training and really understanding that, we do live in a racist society, right? It is a systemically racist society that we live in. And that at times we're probably all exhibiting racism without realizing it. I think that's like a huge wake up call for everyone to be like, oh my God. And to stop being defensive about it and be more open to having the conversation. So I think that's like the first bit. Then the practical things that we've done are teaching our recruiting teams how to source diverse talent. And where do you find this talent? Like, what Boolean string do you write to find Black talent, let's say, if that's what your focus is. We have spent a lot of time looking at our process. So some really practical things. Our interview panels, the final panels, are 4 people, 4 interviewers. At least one of those has to be a woman. Absolutely no negotiation, ideally more, but at least one person on every panel must be a woman or a diverse panel member. And then there must be, and we usually do 2 to 3 final interviews. This 4 panel process I'm talking about, at least one of those candidates has to be a diverse candidate. So I think that's the key thing, is we really don't want to go down this route of, I see it in companies where people are almost apologizing for hiring the white man. Like, that's rubbish. All we're doing here is trying to set a level playing field where we have diverse talent in the final interview list so that the hiring manager can make the best decision, right? And over time, we will affect the representation in our business. So they're just practical things that you need to do. We've also done things like, we were seeing that some underrepresented minorities and that were going through the process were falling at the first post that we had of the coding challenge. And this required presenting to a couple of engineers. And what we were seeing was this particular pool of diverse candidates was really struggling with that presenting part. But when we made it a conversation and a much more fluid kind of exercise, we suddenly saw the conversion rate go up by 50% because it was just a different format. Same things being assessed. But I think it's just looking at that. Like, if you spend a ton of time in your process focusing on presenting and writing a good presentation, like, ask yourself if those things are important in the role that you're hiring. And if they're not, why are you making someone do that? Because that may not be the best way to see what they're good at. So I think it's just examining your process too, and looking for those like bottlenecks where you might be losing the diverse talent.
Yeah, I love that idea. I guess, you've got, especially as a company that's the size of Intuit, you've got quite a big sample data to go off of the people you have interviewing through your business. So it's important you can use that to best of your advantage. I like that. Now, Intuit as a business, do you have sort of, are there key diversity figures that you guys are looking to address over the next 3, 4, 5 years? If so, what do they look like?
In the US, as you probably know, in California especially, you legally have to hit certain representation goals. Outside of the US and the international markets that I'm responsible for, we are not going to set hard and fast rules around this, because we really don't want to drive any type of positive discrimination. And I think if you make a hard and fast target like that, you're on a one-way road to that happening. So we're not going to do that. We are going to set some aspirational goals, but they're going to be around the market. So if we know 20% of engineers in London are female, then we want 20% of our team to be female. If there are 50% of the people who are in sales in London are women, then we want that many women, right? If we understand that in London, 13% of the population is Black versus the UK, it's 3%, for example, we're in London, so we want to reflect London. So we're going to base the targets on the market. We're looking at our small business customers, and our small business customers reflect London. 13% of our businesses are Black-owned small businesses, but our employee base doesn't. So we're also looking at that. So there'll be aspirational goals versus, absolute hard and fast, you must hit this goal.
I know they pride themselves on a great culture. People love working there. You've won numerous awards, not just for the D&I stuff that you've done, but for the inclusive culture that you have there. Has there been any pushback to any of these processes that you guys are implementing? And if so, how have you sort of overcome those?
So I think one of the most controversial things we've done with our guidelines is said, when you're doing a contractor conversion, we are going to ask you to go to market for 2 weeks to see if you can find a diverse slate of candidates before you convert that contractor. So if you think about that, you've got someone who's embedded in the business, worked in the business, the manager knows they can deliver. But if that manager is running an engineering team that's 100% men, and he takes that one hire he's going to make that year, and he just converts that contractor and makes no attempt to improve representation, we're going to make no difference. So I think we've had quite a lot of pushback on that one around, just the pressure of business, right? I need this role filled right now. And I think our pushback is just, it's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks in the scale of, a quarter. You can dedicate this much time. And honestly, it's working. It's taking some time to get there. If we were to go out and do a search right now in LinkedIn, the first 100 candidates we're going to get are going to be not diverse candidates, right? So it's almost that second 100 where you begin to build the diversity in. So all we're trying to do is make sure there's a level playing field of diverse candidates in the slate. That's all we're doing. We've also had some men in our business say to us, so am I now not going to get promoted because we're on this whole diversity kick, and if I'm not underrepresented minority or a woman, I'm not going to get promoted? The person who is the best fit for the role is always going to be the person who's hired. But we have had that question asked, and I think people worried about what it's going to mean for them. And also we've had, we've been working really hard on having, a woman on the panel or an underrepresented minority on the panel. We've had some people come to us saying, do not put me on this panel just because I'm Black or just because I'm a woman. I want to be put on this panel because you think I'm talented and I'm going to add value to the assessment process. So we've also had to be a lot more thoughtful about how we position these things, right? No one wants to be given anything because of what group they're in, right? People want to be given things because they're talented. So that's been another really great learning for us in how we approach people and how we invite them to be part of the recruitment process.
Is there anything you've had to do specifically different, I guess, for the technology team, hiring for the technology teams, where that pool of candidates is so badly, underrepresented?
This is where the really in-depth sourcing training has come with our recruiters, right, on how to target the types of locations, right, in the country where you might be likely to find more diverse talent, the types of universities maybe people will have attended if you want a more diverse pool of candidates. We've had to do a lot of education with our leaders around different backgrounds. Some people go off and learn how to code later in life, right? And do one of those really intense conversion courses. And they have quite different knowledge to someone who's got a more traditional computer science background, but can be equally, an add to the team. So, opening up leaders' minds to different types of backgrounds. And not doing the lazy hire. Oh, they went to Oxford, they worked at Google for their internship and they had a stint at this cool startup. And we're trying to broaden everyone's, kind of horizons when it comes to the type of talent that we consider. And just being really, really strict about, you cannot make an offer until you've had a diverse slate of candidates that you've interviewed. And just digging your heels in on that, because that's really the only way that is going to happen. You have to have these clear rules. And the way it works in our business is if you want to make a decision outside of those guidelines, it has to be escalated to VP level. And we've been very lucky that those VPs say, no, we need to improve representation. Come back to me when you can show me you've had a diverse slate of candidates. So that's helping us a lot.
Yeah. And I think that bit's vital, isn't it? You need to have that buy-in at a senior level to really drive through any changes right now. Of the diversity and inclusion. It seems like you guys at Intuit have got that now. So that's brilliant to hear.
We've still got a lot to do, but we're making a start.
And looking away from what you guys are doing at Intuit at the moment, Jen, and if there was a magic wand that you could wave, what do you think is can be the biggest driving factor or the most positive impact on getting more diverse individuals and cultures and backgrounds into not just technology but also into the wider industry?
Yeah, I mean, we're really lucky at Intuit in that our CTO is a woman, Mariana Tessel. So we have found that has been a massive help in us attracting more tech female leaders or female tech leaders. And we are finding that those female tech leaders bring a lot of very diverse talent with them, which is a huge help. So I think a lot of it has to rely on the networks of the women that we bring in. We work really hard at showcasing and what it's like to be a woman in tech at Intuit, and the good, the bad, the ugly, and what we're working on to change and all the rest of it. So I think being really transparent about what you are doing really well, but also what you're still working on. And then, just trying to be as inclusive a workforce as possible, right? I mean, just focusing on women, for example, there's a trend, right, in Silicon Valley, especially, where we're seeing women leaving the workforce due to the lockdown, right, and all the different lockdowns, because a lot of women have ended up taking the brunt of childcare. We haven't seen that at all. That trend has not happened in Intuit at all, because we have worked hard to have lots of flexible options for all our parents, not just women, to make sure that they don't leave the workforce, whether that means, for the next 6 months, they need to work 3 days a week, right, or they need to have time back or more holiday or whatever it is that they need. We've facilitated those things. So I think that makes a huge difference. We're also spending a lot of time looking at who we're promoting and why we're promoting them, because we did have a year or so ago, we were seeing a disproportionate amount of women leaving at the director level, and we didn't really know why. Like, why are they leaving? And ultimately, we were making it so hard for them to get to VP and to get that promotion, that next, step up. So we looked into that, like, what were the blockers in the promotion process? Why weren't they getting these opportunities? What was the issue? And since built much more fair, kind of unbiased processes around that. So I think that's important too.
Yeah. Brilliant. And look, I mentioned at the very start of this podcast, is the hot topic of the moment, and rightly so, for all the reasons we've discussed. For companies who are being a little bit late to this party and are looking now, and maybe peers of yours who are looking, thinking, right, do you know what, this is the year. This is the year where we need to make a difference with our workforce. What would your advice be for peers of peers, other tech companies who are looking to address like a diversity in their teams? Where would they start? What's the best process for them to start this whole diversity drive with?
Well, I think you have to first of all figure out why you're doing it, right? And we're doing it because we want to mirror our customers, right? Because we know to deliver the best solutions for our customers, we have to have people who think like our customers, right? And have similar backgrounds and can bring that empathy, as we call it, customer empathy. So that's really important. As you said, there's endless research that shows diverse teams are better teams, and companies that prioritize diversity are more profitable and successful than those that don't. So I think you have to be really clear with everyone, this is why we're doing it. This is why it's important. Because I think people do think, oh, it's just like a fad. Like, why is this such a big deal now? Well, that's why, right? You're going to be a more successful company. Your customers are going to trust you. Your customers are going to see that you're doing the right things, not just from a company point of view, but in the community. Like, we have found the stuff that we're doing around diversity and also prosperity hubs that we're actually building hubs in countries around the world where the economy is not doing so well, right? And creating jobs and doing all of that. All of those things make us more attractive than our share price, how much we're going to pay employees, for example. So they're key things. Then you have to decide, right, what do you start with, right? So don't take on every function, every team all at once, right? Think about, where have you got a problem, right? So if your engineering team, you have one woman in that team, you probably want to start there, right? You probably have an issue there. So I think be really focused and do it bit by bit. And then look at your recruitment process, because there are probably a lot of very quick, easy things that you could fix that are stopping people from applying for your roles. Job descriptions are one. The way that you're structuring the interviews is another, right? If a woman is interviewing with your engineering team and she meets no other women throughout the interview process, how do you think that makes her feel? So it seems obvious, right? But these are places to start. Then you can start getting all crazy and having aspirational targets and completely rehauling, the way you do all of your people processes. But I think that's a good place to start.
Jen, I think you guys obviously are making a really impressive go of it there into it. And if anyone wants to go and have a look, I think there's lots of interesting detail on your guys' website actually around what you're doing on DI, which is well worth a read for anyone, I guess, wants a bit more of a follow up on this for sure. But Jenna, thank you for that. There's a lot of key pointers there for people to take away as to and how they can look to replicate that in their own teams. And very insightful. So thank you for your time today, Jenna. I appreciate it.
No problem. And if anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn and talk more than happy.
There we go. What an offer. Make it happen. So thank you, Jen. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Abel. Bye.